Hello, thank you very much. My name is Pep Rosenfeld. Hopefully our dreams will come true and we'll be able to do this exact same routine in Iran, because who would be more welcome to discuss the Iranian elections in Iran than a couple of American Jews? That would be great. Yeah, go over really well.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
If we were in Iran, we would not, if people said where we were from, I don't think we would say America.
Exactly. I've talked to some Iran, we can say, some Iranians, and I get it, there's a code word. The first people I realized were from Iran, and they said, yeah, no, we're Persian, we're Persian.
Persian.
And I'm jealous as an American, really. Because, yeah, imagine that your country that you grew up in would be taken over by, some religious theocrats, and you don't necessarily identify with them anymore, but, in America, when we came here...
We came here, Bill Clinton was president.
Exactly.
Everybody loved Americans.
Sure.
Where are you from, America?
Yeah.
Well, please come and, sleep with my daughter. It was great.
Or, please don't, but I know you will.
You crazy Americans.
One thing leads to another. And then, pretty soon after you leave the country, there's a close sort of elections that things get out of hand. Maybe your country is being ruled by a guy from Texas who's kind of a right-wing ideologue, slowly turns the country into a bit of a theocracy. And you want to say, yeah, I'm from America, but not Texas, and I don't necessarily agree with the way that the country's going right now. That's a lot of syllables. Whereas if you're from Iran, you can just say 2 syllables, Persian, and everybody knows what you mean.
Actually, we finally discovered, and this is what I would do if I was in, I think in Iran, is you don't say I'm American. What I said back then after the Bush election was, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Chicago.
Yes.
And everybody understood what I meant by that.
Yes, that's a large city, an urban area in a blue state. You know what I mean. But yeah, well, it's been an honor to be invited here because we knew a little bit about the Iranian elections. Not necessarily that much. In fact, if you would talk to most Americans, I think they would say, well, yeah, everything I know about Iran, I know from the movie Argo. Yeah, and
that's true.
Thank goodness for the best film of 2012.
And by the way, when I say Argo, I don't mean the whole movie. I couldn't sit through that whole thing.
Right.
Ben Stiller made a long movie, didn't he? It's a long movie.
You said Ben Stiller.
I did. Because I know it's Ben Affleck, but as a Jewish person, I Jewize everything.
Right.
So Ben Affleck becomes Ben Stiller.
And thank goodness, though, even if Americans have not watched the entire movie Argo, maybe they only watched the first 5 minutes, which to me was the best part of that whole film. Just a poignant reminder of American history and Iranian history when there was a democratically elected leader, very popular, who America kind of overthrew to install a strong man who kind of helped steal all the resources and funnel them to America and the Brits, I believe. But yeah, so it's a good reminder.
I didn't like it when he reminded me that the fanatical hatred of America is actually a fact and historical-based hatred of America. Yeah. I didn't like that part of the movie.
Yeah, but no, that's really the opening moments. In fact, I think this was a recent poll that popped up on CNN, but also like on Al Jazeera. Like Americans' #1 fear is like not even NSA snooping. It is whatever the cyber spying. But they do say Iran having a nuclear weapon. That's like still a #1 fear for a lot of Americans. But Americans also don't...
It's actually, for many Americans, that's right after my son marries a man.
Yeah, that's right up there.
My son marries a man,
yeah.
Iran gets a nuclear weapon,
right?
And I have to find Iran on a map. Those
are
3.
See, that's the thing. Finding Iran on a map.
And there's no official war with Iran yet, so no one knows where it is.
That's the thing.
If there ever is a war, then finally we'll know where it is.
But even just by by triangulation, Americans should be able to figure out where Iran is and try to figure out why they might all of a sudden want a nuclear weapon. It's 9/11. We all know that was a painful chapter for Americans. And Iranians knew that Americans knew that the attackers from 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia. So what did America do? Well, they set up shop in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Just happened to be the biggest neighbors. Iran's biggest neighbors are now kind of America heavy. And all of a sudden Iran says like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a nuclear weapon. What would you do? Of course, there's been talk of, yeah. Anyway, that's my personal...
Should we move to the elections?
Yes,
sure.
Because for us, if Pakistan has not yet attacked India, then I don't know. The worst cannot come to the worst. Anyway, and then yes.
Well, I think because it turns out the elections are.
Oh yeah.
For me, the shock for me looking at the elections is just how much more similar they are to the American system of elections than I would have thought.
Yeah.
I mean, at heart, the elections start very similar to the Dutch election and the American election. In both elections, you start with basically 8 candidates who disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now, in America and in Iran, the election happens, and then the 8 candidates who don't agree become one government official who makes the law. Whereas the Dutch system is you start with 8 candidates, and then you get a government with 8 candidates that don't agree. And you take the 8, you put them in the government, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. And some other similarities. Well, in America, it's like 18 months, like a year and a half it takes to find a primary candidate, a main candidate, the general election. It's like a year and a half. There are some Dutch governments that don't even exist for a year and a half, and yet sometimes just forming the coalition does take a year and a half. But that said, you got to give it to the Iranian system that it's fairly efficient. I believe the joke was that Khamenei basically was saying, "Hey, you protesters, don't think this is going to be like 4 years ago, because if you really start protesting, I might just announce the results early," right?
That was the joke.
Yeah.
The funny thing to me would be when he gets more specific and says, look, because we were going to make this thing exciting. Like, it was going to be close, you guys were going to get excited, it was going to look good for your guy, and then my guy would pull out and win in the end.
Sure.
And I mean, you missed all the fun. I'm just going to go right to the winner.
Right now, it looks like maybe Rouhani has above 50%, but there's going to be a runoff election. They're going to stretch it out and make it as exciting as possible.
That's a big difference, by the way, between Iranian politics and American politics. Is in Iran, if there's a disputed election, then you have what's called a protest on the street. In America, when you have a disputed election and people don't believe the results, you have what's called an inauguration for George Bush.
Yes.
It's a very different system. It's a very different system.
Although, it was similar. I mean, there were some similarities. 4 years ago in Iran, you had the Green movement, and the Green protesters were really threatening to make some real change. The Green protesters were calling for a boycott of the election. It looks like they changed their minds, and since the Green protesters did take part in the voting this year, then maybe there's going to be a big difference for Rouhani. Whereas in the year 2000, if the Green Party had not taken part in the elections and no one voted for Ralph Nader, then we would have had Al Gore. And we would have had a reformer, a real reformer, not George Bush, a reformer with results. But anyway.
Can I say something amusingly similar to me about the two systems is that last week we had that presidential debate in Iran, and the big issue is not what anybody said, but the crappy format of the debate.
Yeah, that was the news.
The quiz show format. Like, I just thought, it's so American.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we had so much in common.
Yeah.
But you have crappy debates too.
Yeah. One of the candidates who said, what are they going to ask us next? Drawing skills, Because what was one of the things, if you see this picture, what does that make you think? Like Rorschach diagrams or something. Let's do quick, maybe there should be a psychological profile for...
To me, the biggest difference is you put those pictures up and the Iranian candidates say, well, I'm not going to do this. This is an insult to the voters.
Yeah.
Whereas the American candidates would say, I see Jesus Christ eating pie.
Yeah.
With a flag and an eagle.
Really not that crazy different. The Republican primaries featured candidates, one of them taking a risk, putting this out there. I don't believe in evolution. Everybody on the panel, nobody believes in evolution, no, and I don't believe that we're really in economic trouble. We're stronger than we've ever been. That's right, we're the greatest country in the history. And that's kind of, the way that the Iranian elections, yes, we must not. What was Ahmadinejad? Went out there to the United Nations a couple years ago. We have no homosexuals in Iran. That's your problem, not ours. I mean, maybe that's kind of true. They kicked them all out by now, but I don't know. But yeah, the term limits as well.
By the way, an American Republican congressman will say there's no homosexuals in their states.
Sure.
Evidently because they're all in the Congress. All right.
Tap, tap.
Tap, tap.
Men's room,
Tap, tap in the men's room, boys.
Yeah. But term limits as well. So Ahmadinejad is not allowed to run for a third term. Where does that come from?
Where did that come from? A serious question, because I know why in America you can't have 3 terms as president. When were term limits established for the Iranian president? It's a real question. I don't know the answer. There's no joke to back it up.
Maybe since...
Do folks know? Sorry?
It is in Constitution. Only twice they can.
And it's ever since the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Beginning of 1980s.
Okay, because in America it was like there was one guy, Franklin Roosevelt, that just won too many times.
4 times in a row!
And they were like, no, we're going to fix that.
Yeah. As long as Khamenei can be, the sort of lifetime. Yeah.
He's like the Supreme Court.
Basically, it's, there are checks and balances,
He's
I
the
guess.
Supreme Court. Yeah, he checks everything and it all has to balance with him.
And I like how, the role of the Iranian president is supposed to be, as it was described in the New York Times, the role of the president is largely the international figurehead, the international spokesperson for Iranian policy, and that has been for years Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. And in honor of him, I wore no tie today. I do have a green tie, though, just in case it goes the right way.
He really doesn't. He never wears a tie. It's like he works in like cappuccino. It's like he works for Apple.
Oh yeah. Cupertino, you mean?
Cupertino. What did I say?
And drinking cappuccinos.
He drinks cappuccinos and Cupertino.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, boy. And then that's true. And Steve Jobs wore the turtleneck because he was originally from Syria. So there's another connection there.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway, but fair enough. The term limits. Yeah, we talked about that. I love how Khatami has had an international face though for a while.
Yeah.
He came out there and said, "Oh, rest of the world, you haven't been paying attention to our politics at all, but now all of a sudden." That there's a threat of a reformist candidate or whatever, now all of a sudden you're interested. Well, if now you're interested and you weren't before, what was the context? He basically said, go to hell, right? Which is interesting for the supreme religious leader to say that.
Yeah, because if the supreme religious leader tells you go to hell, you know he could also give you directions. If he did, he'd tell you exactly how to get there.
But still, it's interesting to me that in terms of just democracy, the Iranian elections, arguably, you could say that they're more democratic than the American elections. In America, we've got 2 candidates, 300 million people plus, and we've still got just 2 candidates, basically. We tried a 3rd candidate at one point, but Americans, we just got confused.
It was too many. It was like the metric system. We just couldn't do it. I don't know. What? No. Green Party, meters? No, I can't do it.
So, but yeah, you've got so many elections, so many candidates right now. There were 8. A couple dropped out, right? Because Khatami and...
Right, it's down to 6 now, yeah?
And Rasvanjani said, no, we want reformers. There should be just one real, I believe this is what happened. And so, yeah, but you still have 6 candidates, and there could be a runoff, and it's good entertainment. It really keeps you guessing.
It is the best reality show on earth.
Yeah. And I don't know much about Parliament or anything, but I do know that, wow, Dutch elections really have. But it's hard to compete with the Dutch system because, the smaller the country, the more they like to disagree. So in Dutch Parliament, you've got 10, parties in Parliament and another 10.
10 crazy ones, yeah.
Crazy ones, yeah. And some of the new ones, which are always entertaining, You get the Pirate Party, which is, of course, the original pirates did not say R. They said, we work for the VOC, yes, we're kind of Dutch. And they weren't really pirates, right? They were just saying, oh yeah, if you see some Spanish ships loaded with gold and you want to take them over and sink them and steal the gold, you go right ahead. Which is funny now that, you've got today modern piracy, and who's protecting us from the Somalian pirates? The Dutch, the original pirates. Sort of like saying, who's going to protect my casino from the mafia? Oh, the Gambino family.
Because they know the ins and outs of the system.
Yeah,
Who better
there you go.
to protect you from the pirates than the old pirates?
Oh, distress call? I don't think so. But that is the politics of that region of the world. It's odd to me, all the sanctions that have been going on. I mean, is it not true that Iran still imports refined oil? It exports the raw stuff, but still not managed to get around to refining the stuff. The question is, maybe there would be a reformer who could possibly lift some of the sanctions, but that has already been happening with Obama, which is, as it was just explained to us, Obama in Farsi is he with us. Yeah?
With us, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
Which is not the translation of a lot of Americans.
No.
I believe it stands for he against us.
Yeah. Obama.
Obama.
Like Osama, but even worse.
It's like they took the name Osama and then made it worse by putting a bomb in the middle. Obama.
That's how good he is.
Yeah.
He still managed to win both times. But so Obama is now lifting these sanctions on certain social media to be sold to Iran to help maybe the green protest movement. I
The more
believe.
Twitter, the more Facebook, the
More
more
Twitter.
Instagram, the more the word.
Yes, exactly. More Instagram. I believe encryption software is also being sold now to Iranian to students and.
Greg, Obama wants to make sure that Iranian students can use social media without the government, spying on every message they send.
So the question is, why does Iran get technology that we Americans are not allowed to have? Because they're reading on my emails right now. I just read on Al Jazeera that Google has announced a large warning that Gmail accounts all over Iran appear to have been targeted in a phishing campaign, which means that Google users have been encouraged to give up their user ID, and it may have some connection to the election, or as the bill says, maybe the election, or maybe let's just call it the selection, which is a good joke.
It's a good joke.
But anyway,
We're stealing it and not giving any credit.
yeah. But speaking of that, I mean, the whole Google thing and social media. I know that Ahmadinejad was quoted as saying that he wants to remove Israel from the map or whatever.
But that was a misquote, right? That was kind of a mistranslation.
I think, Ahmadinejad was like, I never said I do not recognize the state of Israel. I just said I was looking for Israel on my iPhone, and with Apple Maps, I don't know, I was typing in directions to Jerusalem, I ended up in Jalalabad. It's terrible. Me and my phone, we do not recognize any country on here. I've never been to Tehran.
You really did learn it all from Argo.
Not just from Argo, I read Persepolis. I read Persepolis with my daughter. And it was a nice coming-of-age story. But, it's a great film as well.
Ben Stiller?
Yeah, Ben Stiller does all the voices.
Ben Stiller does all the voices.
And, it's fairly repressive still, isn't it? If I read in Iran, the magazine, nice glossy magazine, there's a thriving black market for alcohol. Again, similar to Chicago in the 1930s, not that long ago.
It's very true.
Yeah, you could get your little apple vodka in a little plastic baggie or whatever. But apple vodka, that's how desperate you have to be.
That sounds delicious to me.
Really?
How come apple vodka, you're saying it's desperate, and in Manhattan we call it an appletini?
Okay,
It's fantastic.
well then maybe.
$14 for an appletini.
There you go. All we have to do is smuggle some apple vodka into Tehran, and we have a reason to go.
I think soon in Manhattan you'll be buying them in plastic baggies too.
Yeah, that might be.
Official.
But how about that? And what's smoking like in Tehran? Is it illegal to smoke? Does anyone know this?
It's legal.
It's legal. Okay, so it's a lot less repressive than Manhattan in some ways, or even here. You can't smoke in this room. Anyway, but I know it is difficult when you get, I've heard the stories of the police or whatever, the brigade, on their scooters, and they're in uniform and they're on scooters and they're saying, sister, you cannot have so much hair showing, or brother, what are you doing looking at her that way, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, scooters, guys on scooters causing trouble. That's just
So in Tehran, let me get this straight. Whenever you hear a scooter, you're kind of annoyed.
yeah. So it's really not
It's
that
just like
different
Amsterdam.
from
Yeah.
Amsterdam, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys on scooters, this is causing trouble. Unless you're delivering pizza or drugs.
Or pizza to a guy on drugs.
Yeah. Then.
In Amsterdam, we had a great system for a while, which was everybody knew their place on the street, right?
Yeah.
The cars went on the road, and the trams went on the tram tracks,
Yeah.
and the pedestrians went on the footpath, and the bikes went wherever the hell they wanted. It was a great system.
Yeah.
And the scooters ruined it.
I think, yeah. And yet, does anyone here ride scooters? Sorry, we don't mean to offend. Whether you're on a bike or on a scooter, at least we can all agree that we hate those little bike lane-sized cars that have no business being on a bike lane or anywhere. But they're for the disabled, apparently.
Hey, can I say that so with the results trickling in now, we have one of the two big results of the week, because obviously we're going to find out who wins this first election. But then in 3 days, we have what might be an even more important result, which is when the Iranian football team takes on South Korea
For the World Cup.
to qualify for the World Cup, right?
Yes.
Because we're close, right? If Uzbekistan loses, then we win no matter what, right? Then we make it through no matter what. If they lose, then it's even more exciting, because then we have the grudge match with South Korea, and who we were eliminated by 4 years ago.
He's saying we because he's identifying with Iran right now?
We're all
just okay. That's how far we've come.
Right, that's how far we've come.
20 minutes.
So I mean, think about what a week it could be. We could have moderate victories in the election.
Yeah.
We could have the Iranian football team advance into the World Cup.
By defeating South Korea.
By defeating rival South Korea.
Making up for a painful loss 4 years ago.
A painful draw, which eliminated us 4 years ago. What if we could get the perfect hat trick, which means 3 victories? What if we could get the perfect hat trick this week? What else could go right?
That you'd have to have Khamenei.
What if he pulls a Pope Benedict this week?
yeah, stepping down.
What if he Pope Benedicts and steps down?
But you're supposed to be in for life. No.
Because he's got better things to do. Now that he knows that his humor is acceptable,
Right.
he will become a stand-up comedian. Right?
You don't like my jokes?
Go to hell!
Khamenei has a good, prominent future in line for him. Yeah, on the world stage.
Stand-up comedy.
Yeah, and maybe the president can go about the business of just ruling the country, and the one who can represent Iran on a global stage, Khamenei.
You don't like me?
Yeah, go to hell! And I can tell you directions.
But don't use John's Apple Maps to get there.
Yeah, really.
That is all the time we've got for you guys
Yeah, that's
today.
true.
But we're looking forward to seeing more results trickle in, and maybe more results to be joked about. Today, the NRC Cafe. Tomorrow, Tehran.
Yeah.
We will be from Chicago when we get there.
Yes, I'm putting on my green tie.
Thank you guys for having us, and thank you very much. Greg Shapiro, we're from Chicago. Thanks a lot.